Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. So today we're unpacking a massive, literally multi-trillion-dollar global economic mystery. We're looking at a financial system that was designed with the highest moral intentions. I mean, it's a system fundamentally built on the ideals of fairness, equity, and social responsibility. But as we dig into the research and the hard data today, a deeply unsettling paradox emerges. We're going to explore how an industry can achieve astronomical financial success on paper while simultaneously leaving behind the very people it was originally intended to uplift. Get ready because the numbers we're about to look at are going to completely challenge how you view global financial growth. Okay, let's dive into this with a question that immediately highlights the jarring reality of this situation. According to the research, the Islamic finance industry experienced a staggering 300% growth in just 14 years. It basically transitioned from a niche market directly into the global mainstream. But here's the paradox we're going to unravel today. With all that exponential growth, why didn't poverty in the Muslim world decline alongside it? If a system is built on ethical wealth distribution, shouldn't its success be felt by the most vulnerable? To really understand the scale of this, just look at this figure. $5.98 trillion. Let that sink in for a second. To put that into perspective, that's actually larger than the entire GDP of Japan. That is the explosive asset growth of the global Islamic finance industry recorded by 2024, up from about $1.5 trillion back in 2010. Now, by all traditional economic metrics, this is a magnificent achievement. Major industry reports totally celebrate this asset growth, the skyrocketing financing volume, the booming market capitalization, the whole shebang. But as we're about to see, celebrating asset growth doesn't tell the whole story. Because when you contrast that $5.98 trillion with this next number, the reality gives you a bit of whiplash. 1 in 5. According to data from the Islamic Social Finance Report, 1 out of every 5 Muslims globally lives in extreme poverty. This is especially shocking when you consider that Muslim-majority countries actually control roughly 70% of global energy resources. We're talking oil, gas, minerals, plus massive tracts of agricultural land. The wealth is undeniably there, the resources are there. So why are so many people still trapped in extreme poverty? Section 1. The investigation. Where is the money circulating? Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it highlights a massive geographic disconnect. If the system is flush with nearly $6 trillion in assets, where exactly is all that money circulating? Because it clearly isn't reaching everyone. Notice how the wealth is super concentrated. Countries in the GCC, like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, hold about 40% of the Sharia asset share for a population of just 60 million, where poverty is remarkably low. Malaysia holds another 10%. But then look at South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. Combined, these regions are home to nearly 1 billion Muslims, with poverty rates soaring between 30 and 60%. Yet they are almost entirely bypassed, holding just tiny fractions of the industry's wealth. The industry is serving countries that already possess mature financial infrastructures, while the communities most in need are barely touched. Section 2. The missing clues. The data that doesn't exist. When you look at major industry reports from heavyweights like LSEG, Dinar Standard, and Standard Chartered, you find they are actually hiding something crucial through their silence. Not a single one of those magnificent reports includes these vital metrics. They don't track changes in the Gini coefficient, which measures inequality, in the countries where they operate. They don't report the percentage of customers from the bottom 40% income segment. And they completely omit the percentage of financing flowing to the unbankable segment. Actually, as the source material points out, these missing metrics are clues. This silence proves that the global Islamic finance industry has systematically chosen not to measure what matters most for poverty reduction. And what matters most is distributive justice. Let's just define this quickly so we're all on the same page. Distributive justice is a system or metric ensuring the fair, equitable allocation of wealth and resources across all segments of a society. This concept, it's supposed to be the beating heart of Islamic economics. But currently, the industry's definition of success is strictly corporate. It's all about asset growth, market share, and profitability. By failing to track distributive justice, the system is fundamentally ignoring its own foundational mission. Section 3. The evidence. What the 38 studies say. Let's pivot to the empirical evidence to see what the academic research actually reveals about this paradox. A massive systemic literature review analyzed 38 different studies, including a major 2024 peer-reviewed study published in a Science Direct journal that looked at 2 decades of data across 14 countries. And this brilliantly illustrates the reality on the ground. 58% of the studies found that commercial Islamic banking is completely distribution neutral. It neither worsens nor significantly improves wealth distribution in the medium term. Another 10% actually found an access gap, where the system entirely fails to reach the poorest Muslims. Only 32% showed a positive impact, but exclusively when utilizing specific targeted poverty programs like productive zakāh, not through commercial banking. So for the vast majority, the empirical evidence is unambiguous. Mainstream commercial Islamic banking, as it stands, does absolutely nothing to automatically reduce structural inequality. Which is just tragic when you look at the sheer potential that exists. On one hand, we have the United Nations 2020 estimate of the funds required to eliminate global extreme poverty entirely, $175 billion per year. On the other hand, look at the estimated potential of global zakāh and waqf Islamic social finance instruments. That potential ranges from $150 billion to well over $700 billion annually. The arithmetic conclusion here is astounding. The potential of these funds alone, if actually realized, would be more than enough to fund the complete elimination of global extreme poverty. This proves definitively that the issue facing the Ummah is not a scarcity of resources. It's a massive systemic distributive failure.
Section 4. The culprits. 3 structural explanations.
So we have a system with immense potential that is failing to distribute its wealth to those who need it most. Why? Well, the research identifies 3 structural failures causing this massive disconnect. Let's move to and see how this builds, because we're going to systematically walk through them. Step 1, a wrong market orientation. Step 2, an obsession with procedural formalization without distributive substance. And step 3, the complete absence of distributive mandates and metrics. Let's break down exactly how these 3 failures operate in the real world. Let's start with that wrong market orientation. The original mission was to serve the unbankable and prioritize economic justice, right? But the reality? The industry grew by targeting segments that were already bankable and already wealthy. Large corporations needing halal financing, high net worth individuals, government sukuk. It's the profitable, easy-to-serve segment. Meanwhile, hundreds of millions of poor Muslims are completely neglected. And when these vulnerable individuals desperately need capital, commercial Islamic banks aren't there for them. Instead, they are driven right into the arms of predatory online lending, known as pinjol, facing hundreds of % in interest. The research cites real-world tragedies, individuals like Kay, Lilan Lantu, and a man in Cilacap, whose lives were absolutely devastated by online debt because the formal system misdirected its focus and abandoned its core mission. So the crucial point is this. The industry has become highly successful at procedural formalization. They are great at making sure contracts are technically riba-free, meaning free of interest, and getting the proper halal certifications. But procedural compliance doesn't automatically produce justice. And because there is no regulatory mandate forcing these institutions to measure or report their impact on poverty reduction, there's basically zero pressure for them to change. As long as they're only judged by their asset growth and checking procedural boxes, their growth will remain socially neutral. It's never going to be the transformative economic force it was meant to be. Which brings us to a final, incredibly powerful thought straight from the source material: an Islamic economics that grows without justice is a shameful oxymoron. Wow. $5.98 trillion is a phenomenal corporate achievement, no doubt about it. But until those magnificent numbers are tied to measurable reductions in inequality, it is quite literally growth without justice. This data isn't just an accusation, though. It's an invitation for the industry to transform, to look past the top-tier profits and remember its core purpose. I mean, what good is a multi-trillion-dollar ethical system if the most vulnerable are still left relying on predatory lenders? It's a question that should leave all of us wanting to dig deeper into how global financial architectures can be reformed to truly serve humanity. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the numbers.